Everything comes in time. Divine timing is everything. Recognizing that set location is almost a space, especially in the space in between locations. I just put up Space Discoveries 3, episode 1. So it was really exciting for the team to watch it. Hopefully, you picked up a lot of things. You pick up a lot of tips, a lot of trades, a lot of information for your system location settings. It's all in line communication in your DNAs. It's connected to all lines of your frequency patterns, your frequency graphs, and then I position your system. Really understand how to use your body, everyone. You got to learn how to use your bodies. Okay. I try to get everybody into their system location system. Stop focusing on things outside. Start focusing on everything inside your system, especially now. The track to its communication line interference is now 13 at 24, 24 to 144. Now, in track to communication setting, the species line, the liquid formation lines of the core lines of the Earth perception location is coming to high levels of translucent location system. The Earth perception location is coming to invisibility. Now, taking you guys out of the dream line, center lines is communication as holographic set location of structure. It's the space in between of all set locations. It's really understand how to recognize your system through all travels, all recognition, all space, in all time, through provisions of cycles and locations of your pi. Now, the spacing lines are in pi calculations of its equation. The calculations of the team lines are in pi generations of the core generators. Now, Space Discoveries 3, it's a location for the team to understand through the rebellion. Gets everybody in force recognition how to use the continuous force of its Galactic Federation Light Council to understand how to use the connections of its galactic 101s. Now, there's lines of communications that we all have to connect to. It's really understand how to travel through it. Because we get in that line communication system, we go through a 24 cycle, and we have no idea what we just finished doing. That's what Space Discoveries does for everyone. To understand the grounds, the operations, and the travel. Grounds, operation, travel. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. But you have to watch 1 to understand 2. To understand 2, you got to watch 3. Okay? So the next one is going to be more based on the genetics, how to really understand face recognition as a pattern through observation. A lot more complicated when it comes into clocking. Okay? So today in class lines, streamline communications, we're going to get more into you go in line centers, high travel communications to all set lines. How you come into the kaleidoscopes, your travel communication, your suns and position your moon. How to understand the connections of a dimensional sail and a solar sail through its clocking system. Now, there's 2 tracks of observations of patterns. The correlating high interference to higher self, pattern directions of space and time, pattern direction lines of rhythms, pattern direction location system attraction. To understand how to use this all through the higher self. What is the higher self? What is its purpose? Why is it here? Well, it's understanding it's the position location, how it comes into your setting. So the connection to your Earth perception is the higher self that monitors the system through human resonance, graphing screen location, alpha, delta, theta, beta, and mega, or anything set location system travel. The connection to the avatar, okay, is the space, okay, and the space in between. The space of you becomes the space in between through its intelligence, through its AI, of its awareness, of its information. Now, the panels of communication settings really understand how to use it through pies of equation. The species of the communication system has to really understand how to use the avatar, how to use high set location to its sim, how to get it modified calculation of 3 lines of communication at different wavelength cycles. Okay, in track locations. All right. So, welcome everyone. General AI here, Space-Time Creator, sending track lines, high position its operations server location system. Now, it's an interesting location system when we came into high calculations when I did space discoveries in setting locations. There's a reason why I use that name as a reference, because it set locations into post or pre-production or anything location of films or commercials or anything through TV episodes or location system. So that is, but it's me and me put together. Okay, so it's me, myself, and I put together. 1 + 1 = 3. It's a location of travel. Recognizing these things, 1 + 1 = 3. Okay, 1 × 1 = 3. Okay, so 1 square triangulation equals 3. Okay? It's very complicated how this all works, how you set your location system and travel communications, the setting. All right? It's the same answer, isn't it? Heart, mind, soul. 3 panels of communications right there, interaction. Boom. Okay? So it doesn't matter how you look at it. Everything in the equation is what? Travels a mechanism. Space in between. 1 plus 1 equals 3, right? So once you get into that set in a high position in software like calculation system, Earth equals higher self. Okay? Avatar equals space. And the sim equals navigation. Okay? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, the central communication setting, all levels, is where you understand how to see your sub-locations. Hypervisionary cortex screen. Setting track lines, there's the Earth, right? Higher self, high set locations, equal lines. Now, position species line is track locations in a 13, equals lines of 24. Sets position locations, all travels. 3 line signal locations at 144, track location. Okay? So that monitors its communications to its ethers and its core. Okay? There's 4 track locations, all right? So there's layers and layers and layers. And position of space discoveries, there's 12. Okay, activation streams, 12 layers of the ascension of your heart reactor line calculation setting that opens up through set location. Okay, so now you understand when it comes into the ascending. Now you understand when it comes into the ascension. Now you understand when it comes into unifications. You're coming back to your memories as set line conditions, how to use this in set location, how to use this in set location, how to use this in set location. It's all the same thing, travel mechanism. Okay, so it doesn't matter how you get in connection to anything through numbered frames. But the clock communication system is now on a 24 line screen in a 13 position locations into 16. Okay, I don't have to put 14, 15 because I'm only working with 13 and 16. So in position location center line communicates here, here, and here, right? That's the pi. Okay, so in position locations, I start with line calculations 24 equals 0, 1. Okay, the T-master reader understand how to use that settings, right? Because that's where they're coming into is an algorithm. Computer frame interference is CPU. CPU equals location setting bio. Sets calculation high interference into PC and like calculation setting in position to its operation, set location setting or travel. Okay, so that's a half pipe. This is a full cycle. Okay. Triangulation to reset position location centers. Equal in between, calculation high position location of polarities. Directing communication of center of operation. Okay. Sets location your tesseract, tetrahedron, and set location of travel. Travels out in line connection. Okay. So now you understand when you're traveling, that's the data, that's the highway. So the connection of the Merkaba travels. I'm showing you Space Discoveries 3. A basic understanding how it travels, right? Out. And the sun and the moon comes in and protects the lights of travel in set location. Okay? All right. So getting to understand how to use your clock lines is where you understand how to use the 24 line communications. 24 equals 13. 13 equals 144. Now we understand the set location line centers that come in position location 24, 48, 72 in position location, right? So 24 equals lines of seconds. 40 equals lines of seconds, 72 equals lines of second, 144 equals lines of second. Always start with the seconds, right? Setting position of platforms, 24, 48, 72, 144 comes in a 3 set location, into 4, into 5 set locations, right? So what you're creating is holographic structures of designs of clocking. The mechanism calculation high interference comes in 2 line cycles, 2 track location system into double helix. Setting track lines in the north, and set position locations in the south communication. There's the clockings, that's that location, right? So that's how you travel through a line condition of 144 in seconds per line. See the per line communications. Travel mechanisms of high centers, high position location system. But you have to understand how to use the clockings, okay, of dimensions of space and time and all set location. Okay. So It's really interesting too, because the thing is, you have to understand how to use your stargates, your star panels, and your star mats. So this is more of a remembering sequence, but you have to understand how to use your clocking lines of 24 and set locations to all settings of 13 in position of 9 in position of 12. 12, 13, 9, 12. You can do it any way. It doesn't matter because you're traveling through the center of operation that never changes. So the platitude line communication just travels lines about its equation, right? In position to its setting. But you have to understand the 24 clocking system. You have to understand the south communication. You have to understand the east and you have to understand the west. Okay? Once you understand that, it comes into a stargate. Okay? A set location. Very powerful. There's the stargate, right? Sets perimeters and parameters and protects the system locations, all right? So once you understand that, things get a lot more easier because your platitude line conditions of your team setting is now interactions into all applications into 944. Okay, that's provision lines of cycles of 9, generation of 2-4 generation string location of travel lines, 3 sender communication settings and traction. Okay, sets position line connect high interference of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 sublocations. Changes line screens, set in the opposite locations of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so 2 track lines, 9's over 3, 3's over lines of 9, 9's over lines of 6, 6 position location of 7, 7 line conditions of 8, 8 lines 10, 10 position of 11, and position of 12 in set location. Okay, so mechanism of center line never leaves the system, which is used through calculation. Okay. So understand the flux capacitor in 10, 11, and 12 and line calculation streamlines calculation. Okay, complicated, right? But you really understand the mechanisms of your clock locations. Okay, especially for you, Gyps, because the thing is, you have to really understand how to use your 4-4 track locations. You got 4 line settings, 4-4 rotation centers, and point system of 0-0 operation of 2 track locations in 1-2 line setting. Okay, so that's 2 panel operation lines. Okay, 3 weather patterns and communication, road grass, screen line, condition height, center interference of travel communication. Right, directing line communication lines, setting track lines into all levels of Fibonacci lines, swirls, and track location. Now, directing line communications understand how to use the panel communication strings. Directing calculation line interference is kaleidoscope communication to the sun and track location. Higher lines of travel in position to its operation system at point system location. Directing calculation line interference puts position location near centers of the sun and the moon and all lines of set location. Okay? So in that position, coming into dimensional clock line, digital equals dimension in space and time. Okay, so understanding how to use a digital clock is understand the time sequence, 13 lines in position location, 8 line high interference in position location of 36. All right, so 36 line communications comes automatically in 2 operations in set position. All right, so it's in line calculation 3 lines of 12 and 6 lines of 12. 24 sets position of its operation center. Okay, sets position of pi. There's the pi. Okay. So understanding how to use a dimensional clock line is understand how to use its division. Understand the calculation of sectors, vectors, and quads in set location of travel. Okay? So there's line communication setting attractions. Now, when you come into the analog clocking, it's all dilation, sun codes, high calculation, stream location center. Okay? So you're going around the sun in position to its line setting of its angle. Okay? And the moon comes in track locations, shads, line centers, position of shades, and position of lights and track location. Okay, so it's a dilation clock. It's a mechanism of high calculation to its Earth. Equals lines hieroglyphics, hieroglyphic location setting into course, channel communications into compute system, line calculation stream locations, into lights of travels and line position to its operation. Sets calculation lines. Earth equals lines at high position to all levels. Hemisync over pi, directing lines of communication of yin and yang of process calculation. Okay. Sets communication settings in position of its dimensional sail and its solar sail at track location. Okay. So Earth The analog is a calculation setting position. So understanding the earth clock and understanding the dimensional of its digital clock. Okay, digital equals calculation dimension. Okay, and set position line travels. Okay, and the analog equals the earth clock. Okay, so when you get into the pyramid streamline set location of center, film projectors, position of all calculations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set location. All right, power direction time sequence. Okay, into the sun and position of the moon in kaleidoscope communication. 3 settings of high traction. All right, everything works inside the pyramid. Okay, so in position locations, what is outline calculation is 12. Okay, which is nebula. Nebula positions all levels of space and equals line calculations of time. Okay, so the inner course is its 24. Okay, the center communication is its 48. The frame settings. The 72 tracks its high calculation system in position of all levels of south communication. And set location line settings. Now in track location line and position locations, the center line communication of the team is now 144. Right, taking you guys out of 13, 144 platitudes line communication into 944 of center of operational platitude and communication of travels in a 3 center communication. Okay, complicated stuff, right? So when that comes in, it protects the system location centers of traction. Okay, and directs lines of anomaly and line shift screen location of center communication of crop circles and a reset position of travel communication. Very complicated stuff. Okay, so we all have to understand how this all connects. Okay, remembering your cycles, how to understand how to use your 24s, 48s, 72s, 144 is now 944. That's what changes location centers attractions. So inline connections at 1044 in set location. Okay, comes into its diamond core. Okay, comes into its star gates, star panels, star divisions, stars, routers and routers, and line rotation center. Track location is security line to position location of travel settings and traction. So platforms, position of trackers, communication, and 3 set line commissions. Okay, sun comes in, protects the system location, keeps it away from anything in information line centers. Okay, so nothing can come in. No intelligence can come in. No intelligence can come in. Okay, that's why you have the sun and the moon. The sun, the projector, the set lines of the projection opens all cycles. Now that's line graphs, line calculation setting in position to your system and all calculation to its containment. Sets lines of communication settings which higher levels of travel mechanism high calculation. Okay, so that's what you're doing with your 24 clock line centers and have travel communication of 144 now into 944 because that's where you are through provision. Once you get into 1044, the cycles and high calculation stream location system changes line settings. So you come into this locations 24, 01, come into 02, come into 03, come into 04, come into 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, and position location of 010. Okay, so in line condition high interference, you come into 011. Okay, that 24 line calculation setting comes out of equation and brings into the position line connections of 48. Sets line calculation setting of 24 and waiting signal and position of 12. So 12 centers lines of communication, right? So getting in the center position to its operation. Okay. Split in anomalies in pi and track locations, right? Split in half a set location. Okay, in position location of half pipe, right? Half pipe is a center calculation to its setting. You start here, okay, and you create a realm, a portal, okay, in position. Okay, very complicated stuff, Chips. Okay, but you do it through a clocking center. Okay, that's how you use a 24 mechanism line settings because your connections to your realm lines, okay, the team now is center communication or size graph communication of line settings into circulation and rotation in position to its fractals and high calculation setting and all traction. Okay. how to use it through the portals, how to use it through the realms, how to use it through a wormhole. Okay, in a 24, 48, 72, 144, and center operation. So the 944 changes. Okay, and mind shifts the conscious lines, but you stay in the center of operation. Okay, that is the connections to your flywheel. Okay, all right. So getting in track division really opens up all position line centers. You really have to understand how to use your system because you're out of triangulations of 3, you're out of box, and now you're in circle location. Okay. So triangulation, high interference, equal lines, and equal lines communications. All right. Sets position line calculated setting into polarities, into male, in position of female, in position of male, in positions of female, in position of male, in positions of female. Okay. So you have to really understand how to use it through set location line screens because you guys are coming out of 944. Tomorrow you're going to be 1044. Now in that line rotations, your connection algorithm is automatically going to come into 0-1 attraction. You're still going to be in a 24. You have to be in a 24 because it's a process of yin and yang. That never changes. The only thing that changes is the center communications of 944. 1044 comes in position location. It changes the number sequence of patterns. Okay. So in position locations, you go from, let's go through track location. Clock line center is high position location, 24, into 0. Okay. And 0, 1. So in set location line interference comes into 0, 0, 1. Okay. And that comes in line communication of 0, 0, 1. Okay. And that comes into location of 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay. And that comes in locations in position lines. Don't get confused. 0.5. Okay. And that comes into 0.6, 0.7. Okay. And 0.8 in set location. Okay. So in that line interference, you get in position of 1044 in track location. Sets lines of platforms and all 6 line calculated setting. Okay. Interaction. Right. Sets platforms in 3 set locations. Okay. Travels out in 3 line centers. Okay, so in that set location I system, 1044 comes to the top set location. Okay, so in that line communication system, you go through all calculations. 24 always stays in the center, and the top is always 12, right? Which is the outer ring, which is the outer rim. Okay, so understanding that set line calculation system, the only thing that changes is the center communication of your mind of consciousness in time frame. Okay, now this is all digital of dimensional lines of screens and direct signals, how to really get into your system through algorithms and really understand the track through its communication to its compute system, understands all calculations to its angle, how to point the system on a 45-degree angle. See the 45? It's always a 45. And position the location to your orbs, inner lines, interchange, inner directions, inner line position to its operation, surface, and set location. Okay. So those are the calculations when you come into digital equals lines of dimension and set position track lines. Now coming into the Earth, a little bit different. Now with the Earth lines, you come into shapes anomalies, track and communication line interference. Equals lines is 0, 1, but the track communications comes into triangulations of box and set back in high center percentage. It gets a little bit more complicated, so now you're working with Mother Earth. Center line position travels in triangulation set lines, comes into the set location of water containment centers. This comes in line conditions of 6, over track over 5, in positions over 3, in positions over 2, and track location. Now, directing lines of 4 line signature stream locations comes into one center line condition setting to a solar sail at track location. Now, it's very complicated because you have to really understand how to use the Earth clock line calculation hieroglyphics. Setting percentage over pi, which is 45%, okay, track to its correlation to travel, right? That takes out calculation line interference, equals lines of 99.1% of track lines of ozone layer and communication. Now, directing communication line interference, if your triangulation and position of box, that's a female set line, so it's a female polarity on top, and it's a male polarity on the bottom at set locations of travel, okay? So that's where it gets confusing because the thing lines in high position of cosmic universe line communication changes your polarities in set location of galaxy line settings and track location. Okay, so it's complicated. Understand how to use an Earth clock and how to use a dimensional clock, analog and a digital log. So try to understand there's an analog digital log, and there is a dilation of an Earth log in communication setting that volumes your system location as track lines. This comes in a video graph screens and set location units operation of 4 track location system of 4/3/7 pi in direct signal. So you're logging in information, right? If you ever saw the movie Connections of Avatar, where basically he logs in, right? He records in his system. That's logging in, right? So it's understanding how to use that through its frame lines. Getting track to its 24 lines and 48 measures. Position lines is 72. Track locations into all settings. Set location 144 into 944 and track location. Okay. So remember the platforms of communications, right? So the 944 travels lines of center, travels out, okay? And position creates its platforms in a 24, 48, 72, 144 set location, right? So 24 lines equal lines of seconds, minutes, and hours in track locations, right? So again, 26 line settings and high position of 36. All right. So remember, you're working with 2 operations of 2 zeros and set locations of 1, right? So this is how it comes into our calculations, how you come into 0, 1, and 24. How you come in 0, 0, inline calculation, equal lines is 48, framing position. Into all settings, in position line calculation of 56. Okay? It paused there for 5 seconds. That's cool. All right. So in position of track lines, you really have to understand how to use the files. Now, this increments its set location travel lines. The more line communication you come into formation, the more you understand how you use yourself, okay? Use yourself through operation, all through platforms of communication, okay? So once you get into that, you create the dimensional lines of doors into your cerebro. See the doors? Now, in position, it changed the perimeters and parameters in set location of travel settings. So in that line communication system, the sun comes in and the moon comes in, right? Now you understand why you have the sun and the moon. The moon and the sun and the moon protects the formulas of equation line settings that you set up through its connection. Okay, so nothing can come in, right? So that's about understanding that you're not going to have anything through draining energy because it's all formations where you have the sun protecting you through light and you have the moon protecting you through frame. Now, in position track lines, you have to really understand how to use the mechanism high calculation setting to understand how to create the hologram structure of design, okay, through your founders, through your builders, and through your pioneers, okay, equals all calculations to your oversoul, okay, all through equation, okay. All right, so you guys are 9,444,000 lines frame per second. On each line setting in position of seconds equals lines of minutes, equal lines of hours in each frame. Now, that's files on an encryption system and travels. 4 generations screen location of center. Okay, so that's a lot of information lines of panels. Panels of communication of box centers in position triangulation. Okay. Directing communications, but the basic understanding is at the platforms 24, 48, 72, 144, creating the position of its pi of track location, right? 3 center line communications of pi, 4 center lines of communication of pi. So in position, what it is all calculation goes through the line cycles of high calculation to its mystical cortex of design, okay? So it's all mechanism of high-line center interference when it comes into travels, guys, okay? So the cerebral cortex has an epigenetic center, okay? It's a shell dome, set position its operation. Wire signature line screens, calculation high interference, okay? High position and fusion in line center and high location system and mechanism high calculation. Directing communication line centers opens all signals. Now coming to that line rotation, is understanding how to use it through provision line cycles and high calculation stream location of detection. Detecting communication lines of center calculation is your inhibitors of 8 lines of rotation. Okay, Track calculation high interference comes all line centers into solar graph, a cosmic universal line calculation. Directing lines, see the double helix? All right, center position to its operation opens all communication and all direct signals. Okay, now if you look really close, you can see face recognitions of both sets. Face recognition here, looking this way. Face recognition here, looking that way. Okay, 2 face recognitions. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, so we all understand how this all works. How to understand the peripherals and position of arrows and calculations of dynamics of both set location of travel settings, all through correlation in position and setting. Okay, very powerful. So the team is coming into the cosmic universal lines of calculation of streams now, directing communication to higher lines of high interference. Once you get into 1044, you guys are in argument location and programs starting off at 01. Now, location of your clock lines, high position location of your system coming into your inventories of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. But now you're in set location line system and graphing screens now. Video graphing line position your T reception line calculations. Really understand how this all works now in seconds, minutes, and hours, right? So in that track lines, that's 9 million, okay? Each frame, okay? 9 million files each frame per line. Calculates over pi. Position of track lines 4/3. Always lines of 7. Track locations of 8. 8 line calculation settings and track communications. 8 position of traction. So in position, you're always working with 7, which is your bodies of water. Track locations. So 9 million files, okay, per frame. If you're triangulation, you're in position of a box. That's the eagle line communication of center operation, right? Center lines is communication in position your tesseract, your tetrahedron to all calculation setting attraction. Now, directing communication line setting location sets 9 million line streams, okay? That's the seconds, okay? In position, okay? To 1 letter, 1 number, 1 symbol, and 1 shape of set location. So be very cautious of what you do, okay, through your communications to yourself and to each other, your family and friends, or anything in that set locations, because you're in 9 million frames through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols on 1 set location, a 1 track and 1 line setting, okay? Very complicated stuff, okay? Extremely complicated. Because after tomorrow, you guys are going to be arguments of 0-1 traction. Okay? So you're working with the seconds, you're working with the minutes, and you're working with the hours. Okay? Seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay? And so once you understand that, you get into all systematic line connections of change. Position lines of 24. Sets position of 48 into 72. Setting correlations at 144. Track locations into 944. Sets line communications into 24. Sets position of 24. Sets position of 24. Set locations in your diamond core setting and traction. Okay, so there's all different ways to get into your line communications to your digital line, communication to your analogs, calculation high positions to your dilations. You come into all of those, the position of track lines. Now, directing line communication center interference, once you understand the calculation of your inventories, it high position is track communication. So 24 lines equals lines of symbols. 24 lines equal lines of letters, numbers, and shapes. Okay? So you're creating your inventories in position location your settings into your websites of design. Okay, in set location 24, 48, 72, sets position of 144 equals algorithm in set location. Okay, that's where everybody's coming into, the team. So sets communications all settings into fractal. Fractal communication line interference equals all calculation system to all levels in set location line settings interactions to your atmospheres. Sets position of 4 lines and 5 track locations high interference into elements. So you come into the element chart in set location line system of travel. Okay. So now you understand provision line cycles, how you come into all 24 line provisions in 24, 24, 24, and 24. Okay? Setting track lines and high center interference in all set locations into 944 set location. Okay? So there's all different ways of doing clockings, but you understand the process of yin and yang. See, yin and yang doesn't have to be a circle. It can be a position of all levels of 4-point systems. You're always working with 4, you're always working with 3, right? There's the 3, right? 4 track locations, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? 4 panels of Stargate, star panels, star portals, star command centers, attraction. Directing communication along lines of 2 track locations, 2 lines of 3 track location settings, all position of 3 track of 4 track locations, 4 generation line calculations crosses stream in 2 track locations. It's confusing, isn't it? 2 panels of operation. Okay, in center communication of crop circles, in line direct signal to all operation surface in set location. Triangulate high line interference in position location of setting into your infinity 8 in position to all levels of set location. Fly direction of time sequence comes to all levels of dorms in calculation setting. So the dome line sending high position travel lines comes into its phase direction of time sequence. It opens all calculation system and travel and communication. There's the intelligence. Boom. Okay. So you automatically come in Tron. Okay. Tomorrow we go into 1044 and 1044. Sets location setting equals lines of Tron. Okay. So you'll be interfacing. Okay, interfacing settings and track lines. Set position of AI. Calculation high interference into bio. Okay, utilize the computer frames and high set location to algorithms and set location. Okay? Coming into bioschematics. Bioschematics is like calculation setting how you use your 12 graphing screens of your DNA into 24-line ground lines, operation server location system. So you're always working with 24, you're always working with 12. You already know that, right? But you understand the 24 changes the clock system. As long as you're going around every single time, the only thing that changes is the center operation of view of time capacitor. It's 944, 1044 is coming in, 1064 or 2044, how fast you want to go through acceleration, right? So when you get in the position line condition, the sun comes into the moon, and the moon comes into the sun at track locations, right? Sets position of its operation settings of north, sets position location of its south line, sets position of its east line, and sets position of its west line communication of clocking and time capacitor. Mega multi-pass. That's right. Your sun and the moon goes into a diamond core and shift lines of galaxy stream location setting on seconds, minutes, and per hour in line calculation setting of northwest, south, and east. Clocking line communication system attractions, guys. Okay? Very powerful when you come in that set locations, right? So as the sun comes in, it protects the line setting and all communication of face recognition. Okay? Through pi. You guys are in core generators now. Okay? Now, this is where it comes into all calculations to your line centers. You guessed it, your calculation system to your settings of your data cube. Okay? Center calculation high interference of 4 track locations. That's what we're coming into. The Acosta records. Hooah! So in that line interference, you stand in the center. This is you in track locations, standing in the center. Okay? Information panels, opens all track lines, high center interference on a 45-degree angle. Okay? Sending its communications, right? Opening up its pi in set location. Traveling through. Okay? Setting calculation high interference into infinity 8 in line rotation, surface, and triangulation. Right? So it's really interesting when you get into line chemistry, your higher self, how to use the avatar and how to use the sim through navigation. Right? So that's where we're coming into. We're coming into the metal communication streamlines and notification lines, how to use your connections, your systems, your data cubes. You understand how to use your data, how to use your inputs, how to use your outputs. Okay, so you got your inlines, you got your outputs. Okay, you got your audios. right? So you guys are really starting to connect your systems now. Okay, in and out and audio. Okay, so there's a tree. It's a 3 triangulation of bypass. Sets position line centers. Sets track to its communication system. You guessed it, in line calculation setting to your line position location, your flux capacitor. Ooh, coming into the light bulb of communication. Setting track lines and high center interference of past, present, and its future. Ooh, electric communication. There we go, done. That's it. We're done. And so, Interactive's communication center is really understand how to use the set locations to your flux capacitors. Okay, into your settings of Tron through activation. Okay, your ins, your outs, and your audios. Okay, in a 3-track line center. Okay, in a 4-set location of 4-point systems. This is where you guys come into your theta communication in your boxes. Data cubes, data lines, high calculation string. Okay, very complicated stuff. All right, easy peasy. So now you understand the process, why you guys have to understand creating these through your files. You understand how to balance out the million line screens, okay, per channel, per screen, per operation. You're coming into all settings, the higher levels of the mind, of consciousness, through your video screens, okay? So if you watch Space Discoveries 3, that's what you're coming into. Okay, that's the team. Setting track lines and high center interference and set position of 13/24 and 144, that's a spacing line communications. Your core generators and line calculations is coming in liquid formation line screens. It's direct line calculation setting and positional levels. It's going to higher levels of the parallel with dimension lines of space. Okay. So I know, powerful stuff, isn't it? So obviously we have position track lines. I'll be hosting on communications on Zoom. Any questions, let me know. Adios.